Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 16th, 2019 edition of the Auburn Zoning Board of Appeals. We'll now call to order at approximately 7 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and broadcasted live by local access programming. Is there anyone here in the audience tonight that's recording tonight's meeting? Hearing none, seeing none. At this time, I'd like to remind the audience, applicants, town administration, and each of the board members to please refrain from asking questions in regards to all matters discussed this evening without first being granted my consent. And our first item on the agenda this evening is, we have a 7 o'clock p.m. hearing. Applicant Ray Bonneville requesting a variance under section 5.3.2.1 of the Auburn zoning bylaws to allow for relief for the frontage requirement of a hammerhead lot on the construction of a single-family dwelling on property located at 23 Sunrise Ave, Auburn, Mass., map 8, parcel 12, and this is a continuation from 4/18. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Bonneville.
Yes,
Can you
good
give us
evening.
an update on your situation?
Yes, this is a continuance of last month, and the Honorable Chair remembers, I had my engineer draw up some plans here. I did submit some to the town, but last week, my engineer called me and said, "Hey, Ray, here." So, if I may, I'd like to give everybody one.
Please.
I know you guys have the old one, but
I think if you want to pass it out, then we can talk about the difference between what we have and what you're presenting us with.
exactly.
Through the chair, I believe the board has the new plan unless it's changed.
On here now,
Okay.
and also a bigger radius.
She and I will share one.
Okay. Well, he did give me enough. Those are different. Do we have one more documentation? This was the last one of the fire department.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Just in case.
Thank you.
I don't have that many, but these are the changes that go along with the plan from the engineer that is legally describing the issues that are at hand.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Okay, so just for the record, we have a letter on hand from the Auburn Fire Rescue Department of Captain Gregory Moran, who is the Bureau of Community Risk Reduction and Fire Prevention Division, stating that he's reviewed the plan for the cul-de-sac at the end of Sunrise Ave, dated 1/22/19, prepared by Burton Engineering of Southbridge, Mass. The turning radius is adequate for the needs of the Auburn Fire Department. This does not exempt you from any requirements that may be required by state, federal, or local rules or regulations. This includes, but is not limited to, the Town of Auburn bylaws. Okay. Second page was from Burton Engineering, and it is basically revised wording for the plan that we're looking at right now, and we'll turn that into the Department of Inspection Services for public viewing, if anybody is so interested. Okay, so I think while they're looking over the plans, if you want to go over what was changed, then we can sort of
Thank you,
listen in
Chair.
on what's going on.
Yep. Okay, to the Chair and honorable members, we had discussed about having a emergency turnaround here, and have it so that it was going to have an easement for the town, because it was a good idea that I don't own it. So what we did was we made the turnaround to road standards, town standards, and it is 120 feet in diameter. And the changes that were made are listed here, okay? One of them, which is, it's only going to be deeded for one home. There's, and that's what the purpose of all of this was just to put one. The other one, which was talked about, was the cost of doing it. That would be solely on me. The other, which is, if you refer to number 7, is the general notes. 7 was added, which reads, the roadway easement predicted herein provides a right-of-way diameter of 120 feet, which it is, as required by Town of Auburn subdivision rules and regulations, section 4(2)-7-5, right to be granted to the Town of Auburn for the roadway purpose. Lot 2, which is the Hammerhead lot, okay? On the plan, the lot label was revised, adding a Hammerhead lot, shall not be further divided, see note 6. The purpose of this plan is to, excuse me, divide property owned by Raymond G. Bonneville and Molly K. Bonneville, being lot 12 on Assessor's Map 8, created one lot. This plan also creates Lot 2, which is the Hammerhead. Lot 1 is my primary residence. Again, I've been living there for 20 years, and it really is a beautiful location, as to not put in a subdivision, but as required by the Town of Auburn zoning bylaws, section 5-2-3-9, a Hammerhead lot shall not be further divided. At this time, I'd like to think that I got all my ducks in a row, and asking Grant that we allow this to be put in, and my next mission is to go to the planning board, which I do have a little hope. But again, whatever they request, we will deal with then.
Okay. Mr. Cussy, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so we still just have 20 feet of frontage, right?
Exactly. Well, no, the road is divided by 2 on a private road, so it would be 40 feet, to my understanding, that the other 20 feet, since we're on this side of the lot, as Caleb had described, the neighbor does own 20 feet of that road. I own 20 feet, and the other 20 feet would be consisted on the roadside.
Now, this radius, is this all going to be paved?
Yes, to what the planning board, now that's the plan, yeah, I cannot answer it at this time, but I would like to pave it. I would like to pave it. If the planning board says that regrinds is what's there, is what's required, fine. If they want me to pave it, I'll pave it. I don't have any problems with that.
All right, so what you're saying is 20 feet on the other side of the road?
Exactly.
You counting on?
That's going to be the access and exit of this home.
If I may, through the chair. This is a subdivision. In subdivision rules and regs, the definition of subdivision is a division of a tract of land into 2 or more lots. So he's creating 2 lots. I'm not quite sure why he would need, if he creates a subdivision, I don't know why he would need an easement, because it says that the length of the cul-de-sac is 279 feet. The other issue with granting an easement to the town of Auburn, easement would need to be granted to everyone on the street. You can't construct a cul-de-sac and only allow the town to use that cul-de-sac. So I'm a little confused as to what the application is, because I don't see that he needs relief from the frontage requirement anymore. I think he just needs subdivision approval from the planning board.
I thought we were going to bring this up for conversation, so technically, I think we're right now reviewing something that does not fall under our jurisdiction, is that correct?
That is my opinion, yes.
So in order to move this from this board to the planning board, I believe that we would have to just close this hearing, agree maybe per vote that we no longer need to see this particular set of plans, and then he can move on, as I ask very carefully with the question.
Yeah, I don't see how the board has any jurisdiction over subdivision, and
Right.
that's exactly what this is. Whether he has to pave it or not, this is a subdivision.
And that would all be site plan approval regardless.
It
Right.
would be subdivision rules and regs.
Right.
The planning board would review that. Peer review, most likely.
Excuse me, to the chair. The reason why the easement was to be put in place was so that I couldn't stop them, anyone, from entering that. The easement would give the town and also anyone driving down this road a way of turning around and not allow somebody to say, hey, listen, you can't drive around here. Yeah, you can, but you can't, but, you know, it can't be allowed. I talked to the engineers about it, and he was saying, well, Ray, address it, because it is a very, very important point on having the town have an easement, but they won't uphold the responsibility of putting it in and maintaining it, because that would be, you know, solely to me, and I don't mind that at all. But if that's the rules of the planning board, then I will address that.
Right, but I think what you're missing here is, our conversation is that, being advised by the building commissioner that now this situation is in what they call the subdivision rules, and this particular board doesn't govern over subdivisions. It's not in our charter. So what we're discussing right now is the fact that we just have this hearing open. We may all review the paperwork, agree to close it, and you might just move on to the planning board without having to even be heard here.
Thank you.
I think that's because of the way you've changed the application, you follow a different set of rules now.
Yes.
So that's what we're going to look at.
Okay, thank you.
Just going to go around the horn. Mr. Cussy, do you agree with what we are talking about?
Absolutely, yep.
Mr. Chacolo?
I do believe so.
Mr. Aaron?
I agree. This is out of our purview. This is a subdivision at this point.
Okay. Ms. Roach?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. Ms. Blaze?
I also, yep.
Okay. So what I'll do is take a vote that we agree on that. We'll close the hearing and he can move on. So do I have a motion?
Through the chair, if I may, the simple solution would be for the applicant to request a withdrawal.
Well said. So, sir, if you could just request a withdrawal, we can just close the hearing, and you can take all of this additional information and paperwork to the next planning board meeting.
Okay, I withdraw, thank you.
The board would need to take a vote on that, just so that he has the ability to reapply
Okay,
in the
so
future.
do we have a motion to accept the applicant's request of withdrawal?
I'll make a motion as stated.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Mr. Tatro.
Your paperwork back?
He may want these back to
Yes, I
give
would
to the
agree.
planning board.
If we can neatly
Yeah.
put them back together.
This is all my stuff.
This part of this is his original.
Yeah, those are original.
Thank you.
You know, it's like wrapping Christmas presents for me, and I was never good at that either.
Small one, too.
Just in case he needs paperwork.
We're getting closer.
Every one of them. Yeah, we got closed on that.
There you go.
Is that for the next one?
Yeah, I would give them that. So do I have a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And he has the original.
Thank you, good luck.
Mr. Bonneville?
Do you want the rest of your prints for the planning board? You passed out all these prints, do you want the rest of them for the planning board meeting? We don't need them.
We don't need them. You can take them, if you take them, then you can bring them to
Since
planning.
spending money to have them
Yeah,
done.
save your money on copies and...
There you go.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
There's the rest of them.
You as well. Okay. Moving on, we have the 705 applicant, NJ Realty Trust, requesting to amend a special permit under section 4.3.5.1, Aquifer Protection and Overlay District of the Auburn zoning bylaws for the renovation and additions to the existing building and parking areas on property located at 519 Washington Street, map 56, parcel 3. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
Motion open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, Attorney Broder. How are you, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Well, thank you. With me tonight is Brian Marchetti from McCarty Engineering, and we're here representing NJ Realty Trust, the owner of 519 Washington Street, and this is the Patrick family auto dealership that's existing, which is currently the Volkswagen facility. Just a little bit of background, the facility was built in 1995 and has been in existence since that time. Formerly had Saab in there with Volkswagen. Saab is no longer. So this is a project that's coming before you, which Brian will go through the site plan details on, which is an expansion and renovation of that existing dealership in order to relocate Volvo, which is currently on Gold Star Boulevard, to this site. So it would be Volkswagen and Volvo. You've heard from us a number of times on some proposals, and we've talked about the Mazda dealership down the road, and this is in addition to that. So Mazda's still coming, and Volvo would be coming to this site if we get all the approvals that are necessary. The reason we're here is in 1993, the board granted a special permit to do automotive sales in the Aquifer 3. So the proposal here is to amend that special permit. Excuse me. It's a program that Brian will go through and explain some of the details on. We've been to Conservation Commission because there is a little bit of a wetland on site, so we can talk about that, and we'll be headed to Planning Board as well upon completion of this process with you folks, hopefully. And we'll go through whatever necessary steps with them. I'm not sure if this will be a peer review project. I'm guessing it will be. In all likelihood, we'll go through that at that time. So I'm going to have Brian walk through the site and the changes, and we're happy to answer any questions after that.
Thank you.
Good evening. Name's Brian Marchetti, McCarty Engineering.
So the site, as it is being redeveloped under the Massachusetts Stormwater Guidelines. The site basically has to meet all the regulations to the maximum extent practical, up to what's existing in impervious. Anything that's beyond the scope of what's impervious needs to meet the standards fully. So the redevelopment here is an expansion to house both Volkswagen and Volvo. So on either side of the facility, there are service aisle bays that are being added to it. Beyond that, in the rear of the facility, there's about a 3,500 square foot addition that's service bay oriented. The addition's required to meet the minimum standards of the dealerships. And in addition to that, we're expanding the parking area. So with the increase in impervious area, what we've done here to accommodate the revised grading and the revised layout and the expanded parking throughout the facility is completely redesign the stormwater management system. So what was constructed on site back in the early 90s doesn't necessarily meet the current regulations. So the entire site is being upgraded to meet and exceed the minimum standards of the 2019 bylaws. All of the new service bays inside the building have dry wells and floor drains. Everything's being collected within the building and routed through sewer as required by building code. The existing facility had two surface at-grade basins, one up along the frontage on Route 20 and the other one on the south end of the site. Both of those basins, because of the expansion, are being relocated underground, which is a requirement of the Auburn regulations. And in doing so, it's creating more area for parking and car storage, but it's providing a higher level of treatment and stormwater volume control, which is an important factor being in this aquifer district. Currently, the utilities that serve the facility will remain with minor upgrades, as I said, with sewer on the property, but we're tying into all the existing facilities that currently service the facility. So overall, it's a significant improvement. The pavement out there was broken up and kind of settled here and there, so being a redevelopment, the entire site is going to be redone. It'll be a whole new face of the facility. There's a new landscaping plan and lighting plan that's being updated, so it really is advancing what you see out there today. And again, I just want to stress that it's a significant improvement stormwater-wise over what was out there existing. So, as Mr. Broder said, we've submitted to Conservation, we've submitted to Planning Board. Conservation, we've had one meeting. It was continued, just pending additional review, but we fully expect that the meeting in another week or so, we should be able to close the hearing. So, if there's any...
Do I have any butters present this evening? Yes. Okay, that's what I thought. Are you finished with your portion of the presentation, sir? Yes. Okay. Mr. Broder?
Just one point to add, just to the additional background. NJ Realty Trust did purchase, and I wanted to just bring up this point, some acreage in the rear of the site. I think it was around 8 acres that was carved off of 104 South Street. We came before the board previously and had proposed some extra parking in that area, and that area is not going to be developed as part of this project at all. So what you see here is existing 519 Washington Street. It is an expansion of the parking area. As Brian said, we're able to capture some additional pieces of the property as a result of the drainage work that's now going underground and some other changes, but this does not impact that portion of the property that was purchased that was a chunk of 104 South Street. So that remains, untouched, and there's no plan to develop that. So this, though, does allow Volvo to exist on site. It needs extra parking. As currently constituted, it wouldn't be able to host 2 manufacturers on site, and they have particular requirements about inventory on site, which is why that this is proposed the way that it is. So it's really, it's quite driven by the manufacturers in that sense in terms of what inventory is on site and what the buildings look like and feel like. I'm sure you've seen that around town, the Hondas, dealerships, et cetera. I mean, that's a program that the manufacturer institutes, and they say, this is what you're going to build. So that's partly also driving the scope of the project, excuse me. So I just wanted to make that point about the additional property that's not part of this. That piece of it remains as is. So,
Thank you for pointing that out, I appreciate it. Okay, so usually we like to hear from the abutters first, so do you want to do that? Sure. Okay. Would either of the abutters like to speak? Sure. Okay, sir, if you could just approach the microphone, give us your name and address, and speak to your concerns.
How are you? Mike Schillinger, 12 Diane Ave. I'm directly across Route 20 from Patrick's. I heard you mention that the lighting scheme is going to be touched or upgraded or changed or whatever. First of all, let me say Patrick has been a very good neighbor. A quiet dealership, a handsome dealership, and so forth. My only real issue has been with the lighting that is currently on site. From my house, I can visually see the lighting, as opposed to, say, for instance, I guess it's Lux Plus, which is the next dealership over. The lighting, I can see the stanchions and so forth, but at least the lighting, to some extent, is better shrouded. I don't know if this is the right format or
Sure.
the right board to mention this, but
Actually is.
I got the notification, so I thought I'd be here. I know in past that certain boards require, for instance, a lighting plan. I'm not familiar with a lighting plan. I'm not familiar with what information that boards require in a lighting plan, but at one time and place, these light stanchions were put up and they broadcast beyond the property bounds of Patrick's.
Okay.
I find the same holds true particularly for Lux Automotive as well. They have certain lights that they've mounted to the side of their building which just light up the entire neighborhood. My only concern.
No, and duly noted, I would appreciate that if that was if I was living in that area, that would be my primary concern as well. So let's, if you'd like to respond to the lighting concern, sir?
So there are, the existing lighting on the entire facility is to remain. There are, I believe, 3 or 4 light poles that are being added as a result of the parking field in the rear of the facility. You can see here, this is the existing facility as it stands today. This limit of dark green here is tree line along the back side. And right up here in the front corner, you can see where the existing detention basin is, one of them. So for the proposed facility, there's impervious area being added up here where that existing basin was for vehicle parking, or showcase parking. So there are 2 light poles being added up here, and there's 1 light pole being added along the back side here, all the way in the rear of the property. So, you know, besides building facade mounted lighting, there'll be, I think, just 3 of those light poles added. I think there wasn't a photometric plan done with them, but they are, you know, shielded LED lights. I believe the town does have a bylaw about light spillage, so that standard would have to be met.
So one of the things we've had with other dealerships, and I won't mention which particular one, but very accommodating to the neighbors regarding the light plan. So most of the light actually shone or shined back onto the property rather than going across or out into Route 20. I think if something like that could be managed to help that situation, that would be appreciated, certainly. Directional lighting these days have improved quite a bit. Does any members of the board want to speak to that? Mr. Cussy?
Yeah, I would want to see shrouded lighting, but
If I may, through the chair?
Yes.
So the lighting would be under planning board's purview when they go to site plan. Given the extent of the alteration, I would think that this would go out for peer review. This board would just be looking at the drainage and
Sure.
things that affect the aquifer
I know we
today.
discussed it in the past, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, just to make sure.
Yeah, but just to speak to it, I think and Brian's point is that they're old light poles. They're from 95 or
Sure.
whatever. Standards have changed, what people are utilizing has changed, and they will all be upgraded to be, to meet the current standards. As Caleb said, I'm sure we'll have more conversation about that at planning board, but to answer the question, those lights will be modernized.
Okay, thank you. So, sir, you don't have to go back up, but does that satisfy your requirement that the issue is known and will be dealt with in the next board's hearing?
Yes, it does. I'll be attending the planning board in the next meeting.
Okay.
So I'll give you your full back.
Thank you. So for the record, the neighbor did say that they would attend the next meeting, and their concern was met. Sir, would you like to speak? Yes. If you just come up again and introduce yourself, tell us what your concerns are.
My name is Joe Chanette. I live on 129 South Street. Linda Boiselle and Paul Maroney couldn't be here tonight. They're out of the country, and they're the immediate abutters. So I told them that I would come and share their concerns. First and foremost is the lighting, okay? You're my straight man, okay? I didn't ask them, never met the gentleman, okay? But we're extremely concerned about that. Going back to our previous meeting, Paul and Linda's primary concern was the lighting. I've been at their house, okay? You can read the newspaper, okay, at night. Okay? Now, I understand, I understand.
All right, so I'm sorry, I can't have you add to the conversation at this point.
I mean, all of the dealerships on Route 20, okay? And I understand that they have to have, luminaries, okay, to protect their property at night. I understand that. But all night long, okay? And do we have to have them 20 feet in the air? Okay, the cars and vehicles aren't 20 feet tall. Okay, so shrouding and, reflectors and all that. And, yeah, we'll be at the planning board meeting. But our primary concern is the lighting, and I'm glad to hear, okay, that we haven't expanded the footprint of the dealership. Okay, so what it is now is basically what it's going to be. Is that what I hear?
The exception of some additional parking in the rear and some water management, that's pretty much it, right?
But we're not
Mr. Broder, you wanna speak to that?
clearing into the new property
I
that
think
they just...
Attorney Broder was clear that he said they will not be touching that land that they purchased behind the building.
That's all I need to hear for the record.
Okay?
Can I ask you?
You may, please.
Can I just ask you about to point out where on the plan the property is?
They're Maloney, and if you look at the... They are... Yeah, they're off the South Street, and they own all the way back to it, okay, they're basically on the other side of the road. So, Penny's house, they about Penny's house, all the way down to the water, 1,200 feet.
Just wanted to make sure we understand each other. The dealership facility itself does have a footprint expansion to
Yes.
include the service bays. I just didn't want to mislead, but it is entirely on the 519 Washington Street proper piece of property that was, former ownership. This is nothing on the new piece that was just purchased.
Thank you for clarifying that again. I appreciate that.
just going to the stockade fence, correct? Stockade fence that is there? I believe that's what I see on the
On the plan that I read, it said they were taking the stockade fence down.
That's correct. I just wanted to clarify because I wasn't sure if that was the absolute end or not, but it is.
The stockade fence is right along the property line. We're not going to see it.
Is that fence going to be replaced, or?
We're not showing it back down to that extent, but whether it's replaced, I don't think so.
The work doesn't go up to that, so but the
plan says they're going to remove the stockade fence. Says clear trees to limit of proposed grading, remove and dispose of existing fencing.
Is this, which plan is it?
I don't know, that's what I got from the town hall.
I have here in the packet that says, existing stockade fence to remain, protect during all phases of construction.
If I may, through the chair, landscaping and buffering would also be reviewed during the peer review and
Right.
looked at planning board.
So I think what Kayla was talking about, we've heard your concerns, but we really are concerned with the aquifer protections. That's where our sort of jurisdiction lies. We do allow for those concerns to be brought up. It kind of prepares the planning board when they review these types of meetings. And we've heard the concerns, but really, like, as Caleb was mentioning, we really don't have any jurisdiction over that to rule on anything at this point.
Your jurisdiction does go to the existing footprint.
Correct.
And to the expansion.
Correct.
And what I heard was it's going to be on the existing footprint.
Correct.
Okay, and the fence and the lighting will meet you at the planning board.
Right, and I
Right.
was just trying to check the plan because I wasn't sure how far back the fence was towards the property line, but it is at the end of the property. So this development does not go beyond that point. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one. The snow, what do they do with the snow on this lot? This is a big lot. I don't.
Right here.
The plan set does show on the layout materials plan areas for snow storage. So on the south side of the property, there's a significant parking field for vehicle inventory. So in the event of snow storms oncoming, they move vehicles around so they have locations for snow. So there's a large snow storage area shown at the southern edge of the site. And there's snow storage areas shown along the eastern border and as well as the western edge of the site. And depending on the winter, you know, it's case by case, but sometimes, you know, places like this, run out of space and they have to remove it. So it's
Right.
like normal operation maintenance. I think you probably, you know,
It probably makes sense that if there's too much snow on site, they can't have enough inventory on site, therefore they'd be trucking the snow off site to make room for the cars.
Mr. Chacolo?
Yes, thank you. Are you adding to the impervious surface anywhere on this lot? And I'm talking to the aquifer.
yes, we are adding impervious to the site.
Where?
Look at the existing property, we are adding some impervious along the frontage of Route 20. The existing detention basin that's up here and down here, we're expanding over that basin, and we're putting it underground. So we have,
Are you expanding into the Residence A portion of this lot?
yes, we're expanding it along the back side, but within the property line.
So that if I look at the plan that you're holding up right now, and the
Yes.
main entrance, let's call it north, let's call that north.
Yes, it
For the
is
sake of convenience. On the southerly side of that property, as you're holding it there,
Yes.
are you expanding into that area, which would be the Residence A zoned area?
We are expanding the impervious on the southern side of that property, yes.
How much?
I mean, you could, the limit of the property is this dark black line, connects straight through here. Here's the
Yes.
property line.
Yes.
We're extending it, I would say the closest point, maybe up to about 5 feet from the limit of that property line.
Yeah, I'm asking the questions because on the plan here that we have, it looks much larger than that, and the three-car stacked storage area looks like it's all in the Residence A.
This is in the Residence A. The zone
Right.
line runs right along the back side of the building.
Okay, now, when this was Residence A part of the new purchase of land?
No. The new purchase of land is south of this dark line. There's 8.9 or so acres south of this tree line down here.
Thank you. Okay.
That's the new parcel. So all the development is occurring on the existing parcel.
All right. And now, another question. Will you be touching in any way, shape, or form, clearing trees or doing anything like that, on the area that, for the sake of convenience, I'm going to call it the buffer area between what you have on that plan and the area of concern that we spoke about for the last time? Will you be touching any of that buffer area?
I'm not 100% sure I understand the question fully, so can you just repeat that?
Yeah, on the other side of the fence.
There's no portion of the other property is being touched as part of this development.
And I do notice that you have plans to move one of the lights, which is speaking to the other gentleman's concern, move it further back, but that is not for us to take care of here. Thank you.
Mr. Maron?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what's the increase in impervious area?
Look to the drainage and see what the exact increase in impervious is.
If I may, through the chair, while he's looking for that, just so the board's fully aware, this property falls within Zone 3, so there is no restriction on impervious area for this parcel. The special permit is strictly for the use of automobile sales.
So, if I may, the existing impervious area on site in its current state is 3.01 acres, which is 65%. The proposed development increases by 0.6 acres, so from 3.0 acres to 3.6 acres. So it increases from 65% to 78%. So it's a little over half an acre.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter on other, thank you for looking that up. I appreciate the thoughtful response. Doesn't sound like it falls in the preview of what we're going to be looking at. But I'd still like to ask the question, because this is an aquifer protected area. So, I mean, is the primary reason you're increasing by design to increase parking?
It's building and parking.
Building and parking. Can this be done without doing that? I know you have the right to do it, and I know that impervious isn't something that we're going to regulate here, but I'd just like to ask the question if it can be done without it.
I don't think we can meet the parking demands of the new dealership. And I really want to stress that the existing stormwater system was constructed in the early 90s. It did not meet the minimum standards of the DEP stormwater management regulations. So we're completely redesigning the stormwater to meet the current and exceed the current standards. So the stormwater system that's proposed out there today is significantly better than what was out there before.
Appreciate you entertaining the questions. I don't have anything further, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Roach? No. Ms. Blaze?
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay. So if we have nothing else to add, do I have a motion to close the public portion of the hearing?
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion on the application?
I would make a motion to grant
I'll second.
Okay.
with standard conditions.
With standard conditions, correct.
Bye.
All right, so we have a motion to approve and a second. Mr. Cussy?
I grant, true.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Okay. Ms. Roach, you did that already, and myself, I approve. So good luck, gentlemen. Hope it goes well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do a motion to close that hearing?
Motion to close?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we have some signatures for decisions. We have the 125 Oxford Street, Troy's Sports Bar, and 94 South Hole Road, Bay State Performance SP. And while we're doing that, we have are the minutes ready to be approved?
February, March.
Okay, so we have the minutes for February 21st and March 21st. So the motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, minutes have been approved. Just for the record, the next meeting is June 20th. We'll sign our decisions.
Larry, can I use your pen, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Troy, right? And then this is recused, so that's not me.
I wasn't here.
Oh, you're absent. You were absent for two? You weren't absent for two meetings.
April. I was absent in April. Are those all decisions from April?
Oh,
Yeah, single meeting, multiple
Sorry.
decisions. That's right.
Thank you, sir. Pass those down. Okay, and that's our last order of business for this evening. I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Bob, do you want to